Okay, hi everybody. I'm going to show you how to build a kind of an interior of a castle. This is what I did for one of my videos, one of my animations, and so I'm going to show you how to do that relatively, simply. You can, of course, add as much detail as you want, but let's start with something. You know, it's like anything. Whenever you're building something, you break it down into pieces, and I'll show you what I mean as we go along here. So we're going to discount all the characters that I have here. These knights who are kneeling with their sword to the king and a little gesture behind the throne. Let's we're going to get rid of that. So I'm just turning off that head. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going inside this symbol. Okay. And so I'm inside the symbol, and this symbol is called King's Throne Room. Now, again, I'm just going to show you how to build it, and then you can build it, add any details you want. So what I want to do first is get rid of um, some of these pieces here. Um, and let's see if I can get rid of, turn off some of these. Okay, I'm going to turn off this king in pieces. All right. Okay, so there's my throne. Now, all I did was by building this throne, there's a cushion there. I'm going to turn off the other stuff. I'll show you how to build a throne if that is what you want to do. But first, I'm going to show you how to build the room, which I think is what, this way you can put whatever you want into the room. Okay, so you can get rid of that rug, that shadow. Those are okay, and that. So I'm just turning things off that I don't need, and that, and that, and that. Okay, so here we go. Here we have our room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did to build this. Okay, now the first thing is I'm going to show you how to build these columns. So I'm going to go inside this symbol. Okay, now all I did was I go to my toolbox and I go to an oval. And I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. Let's go, no, I want to go to a rectangle. So all I did was I go down like this. Again, this is not an assignment. This is just a tutorial to show you how to build something. Okay, so let me get rid of that turquoise color. I don't want that color there. I'm going to move this over here so we can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to make that, wait a minute, let's move it this way. Okay, and I'm going to make that stroke color red for purposes of the tutorial. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little bit thicker, give it a stroke line of 3. Okay, so there's my beginning of my now don't mind this thing over here. That's just because the reason of that is because I'm drawing this column inside the symbol of a column, which I copied over here. So the one over onto the right is a duplicate of the one I'm working in. That makes sense. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go and make this, move these lines down like this. Okay. Now, let's zoom in a little bit. Maybe that was too much. Let's zoom back out. 50. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to build this column. Okay. And what I'm doing then is I'm going to draw these grooves in the column, because the column necessarily isn't smooth, although you could have it to be smooth. But the first thing I want to do, before I do those grooves, which are just straight lines, I'm going to color the column. And I'm going down to this color window. If it's not open, go to Windows and hit Color. Okay, then it pops up. And I'm going to do a gradient. So you'll see if I go over here and do a click on that down arrow is none, solid color, linear gradient. I'm going to do linear. All right. So this will give you the sense of part of the column is, it'll give you a sense that the column is round and that some of it is in shadow and some of it is highlighted. Okay. So let's see what I've got here. This is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to, right now, I have these, if you go down to the bottom here, you'll see these little things you can move over. All right, these little arrows. And you can add as many as you want. See how I'm adding all these? Okay. Get rid of some of these. All you do is when you click on it, you just drag it down, it gets rid of it. Okay. So I'm going to move it over here. Now I want this one to the far right. I've got 3 of these, right? I want the one on the far right to have the same color as the one on the far left. So I click, double click, and with my eyedropper, I pick the color of the one on the far left. So you'll see what happens. So if you go to my paint bucket tool, and all I do is just left click, drag. Oops, not what I want. There we go. So I left click, drag. I can do this. You just kind of do it carefully. Okay. So you do it carefully so it doesn't go like, go wonky here. Just click and carefully drag. Or I think we can do it this way. You hold the shift key down. Yeah, hold the shift key down while you're doing it. So you get that kind of shiny, look to it. All right. So then I'm going to click on these, double click on these red lines. I'm going to turn them to be black. And so there is my column. Okay. But now you want the column to be sitting on a base. And so what I did in the video that I did, in the animation I did, I have a kind of a round base and then a smaller round base on top of it, and then the column on top of that. So how do I do that? Well, I go to Oval tool, okay, and then I'm going to oops, didn't want to do that. Hold on. Okay. And my line tool is okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this oval for the base, the first one. And all I do is go like this. Okay. And then I get rid of that interior for now. I don't want that. And then I'm just going to, okay, let me zoom in so show you what I'm doing. Okay. And then I double click, copy, paste, and move it down, which will allow me how thick I want it to be. Okay? So let me get rid of the parts that I don't want. Okay, now I just have to connect it. Zooming in, line tool. Before you do that, go up to View, Snapping, make sure it's Snap to Objects is on, so click on that. Go back to my line tool. And then I start getting rid of parts I don't want. Okay. Parts that I don't want. There's your base. Okay. Now you can color it however you want. You can also make it as thick as you want. So I select it, I move my anchor point up. Maybe I make it like that. Move my anchor point down. You know, let's make it that thick right now. Okay, let's use the color that we used for the base. I'm sorry, for the column, that linear color, and we're going to use it on the base now. And let's remember to hold it. Whoops. Okay, hold the shift key down and then do it. Whoop, yeah, there we go. Okay, so there's your base. And then on top, you can do the same thing. Hold your shift key down and do that. Okay. So let's do this. Let's select the whole column, and I'm going to do a Control G. What that does, Control G groups it. It selects everything and puts it into a group. Now I'm doing the thing for the base. Same thing. Control G. Okay? So now if I move my, let me see, if I move my, right now it's behind the base. I want it on top of the base. So I'm going to do a Control arrow up. Okay, Control arrow up. But it doesn't look quite right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the column, and I'm going to bring my cursor over. So you see that little curved line under the cursor? I'm just going to go like that. So now it looks like it's sitting on top. Okay, so there's your column. But let's make another base underneath that base we've already done. So I'm just going to go to Edit, Copy, Paste in Place. And I'm going to move it down. And I'm going to stretch it outward. Okay. But now I'm going to select what I just did, and I'm going to do Control arrow down. So I could put it behind it or below it. And I'm going to move my arrow anchor point, that little white circle, move it to the top. And there is my column. Okay? There it is. That's how you build a column. Now, if you want to, you can put in lines here. That's a simple column. There's different kind of columns. There's Ionic columns. There's Corinthian columns. These are all types of Roman and Greek columns that have a little, well, actually more detail to it. But this is simply your just standard, like if it was a marble column. Now, what I did to get it to purple is what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole thing. All right, I'm selecting the whole thing, and I'm going to convert that to a symbol, and I'm just going to call it class, for our class column. All right, now I did it in gray, as you can see, but if I go to color effects, all right, so let's click on that again. So I'm clicking on it, edit in place. Okay, first of all, let me select it. I'm going to select it and cut it. Right, just bear with me. I'm cutting it because right now it's inside this column over here that I've already created. And what I want to do is I want to create a new column. I'm not a new column, but I want to put it on a different layer in my scene. Okay, so there I'm just going to now paste in place, and there it is. Okay, it's a little small, but that's okay. You click on it, hold your shift key down, grab one of the corner arrows, and then just bring it up. You can actually thicken it if you want. All right, so right now there's my column. Now I want to change the colors. So I go to my properties window over here, color effects, go down to advanced. And if I take green out of it, so you've got the alpha is 100%. So if I turn that down to 0, you don't see it, right? If I turn it down to 50%, you see part of it almost looks transparent, translucent. Just leave it as 100. Red, you've got red RGB, which is red, green, blue. Okay, there's also CMYK, which is another standard of color. This is red, green, and blue. So if I take all the green out of it, I just, right now it's 100%. What you see now is just red, purple, and blue. All right, obviously purple is a combination of red and blue. So you can change the color that way without actually having to go in and change the color. Okay, so if I take all the red out, it looks like that. If I take all the blue out, it looks like that. Now if I go and decide, okay, I'm going to take only 50% of the green out, and it looks like that, and I'm going to take out all the blue, it'll look like that. All right, so it's kind of like when you combine blue and yellow, you get green. When you combine red and blue, you get purple. When you combine red and green, was it red and green? You get yellow and red, you get orange. That kind of thing. All right. So you can change the color that way. So, and then let's go back. I'll just make it what it was before, 100%. Then you can just click on it, copy it, and make as many as you want. So if you've got a game where you're going, parallel, it's kind of like a game where you're going parallel to the screen. You can make as many columns as you want as the person runs through the castle, or the palace, or whatever. So you can make as many as you want and stagger them like that, and the person's running through kind of a chase game, right? Anyway, and then you just click on all of them, and you can change the color, and go down to advanced, and let's take out all the green, and they're all purple. And maybe you have a purple based color for your palace or castle. The other thing you can do is brightness, right? You can turn the brightness down. Maybe it's it's dark inside the castle. You probably want to go too bright, but you can turn it down if it's it's at night or something. Okay, so that's how you build a simple column. Now the column, you can also go in here and maybe make a couple grooves in the column if you want, like I did. So all I'm doing now is I'm going to pick out my line tool, and I'm going to make, instead of 3, I'm going to make that 1. And what I do is, whoops, I'm going to put one like here. Now remember, since the column is rounded, the distance between the grooves is going to become less and less as it goes away from you. Okay? So in other words, that line here is like that, and then maybe I put one in the middle here. All right, so now you'll see that the distance between the lines, or between the grooves, as you get farther away, the distance becomes less and less. So if I can actually move this over, maybe I move it over like to like that, and then I copy that line and I paste in place, and then with the arrow key I move it over here, and so you'll see that, whoops, let's go move that over to the left a little bit, and click that one, move it over. Wait a minute, whoops, hold on a second. And click that one and move it over to the right a little bit. So now you'll see that you've got, if you look at the grooves, as the the distance is the same all the way around, but when you're looking at it from one angle, as the column curves, those distances look like they're smaller and smaller, right? So you've got this distance here, and then as you go to the left, you see the distance, because it'll give it a sense that it's curved. If I'm making myself clear. So you got a line here, and then the line between that and the edge is even farther. So it gives you that effect that it's rounded. Okay. So there's your simple column. Now again, if you wanted to do something more like an Ionic column or a Corinthian column, and I'm not sure what, there was another one I can't think of offhand. Anyway, there are different types of columns that were built by the Romans and the Greeks, and also actually also by Islamic cultures as well. There you go. That's a simple column. If you want to do something like a palace or a castle. I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to just move these over, get them a little bit out of the way for now. All right, so I'll move them over, and then I'm going to show you how to do the floor. Okay, now the floor is pretty simple. I'm going to go to my rectangle tool, and I'm going to create another layer here. So I'm basically going to kind of draw on top of what I've already done, what I did for my animation. And I'm just going to make this rectangle, and I'm going to click on the interior. I'm going to get rid of it for now, and I'm going to make these lines, make them show up a little bit better. I'm going to make them red so you see what I'm working on here. And I'm going to make that stroke size in my properties window. I can make that stroke size 3. Oops. I'm going to make it like 5, just for now. And you'll see that I can do this, okay? Make that kind of a trapezoid. And so what I'm going to do now is, now you can make a floor like this. Remember, in the terms, when something's going away from you, the distance between, it's going to look less and less. So even though the thickness of these, what do you call it, floor slates of the floor, as you get farther away, it's going to look less and less, even though they are the same. So you'll get something like that. You see what I mean? Okay, and then you can do like this, like that, and then you can so if you see what I mean, and then I can select all those lines I just made, and I'm going to copy them, and then go to Modify Transform, flip them, and then bring them over to, oops. So I'm going to copy them again, then I'm going to paste them, and then flip them. So pasting in place just allows me to copy what I just did, and I flip horizontal. There we go. And then I can bring it over and put them kind of like that. Okay, so that, you know, that's basically, then you can move things around to make it look a little bit better. So anyway, that's how you can do a floor, and then you would just go in and color it. I'm just going to color it with a flat color of gray. Okay, so this is just give you an idea of how to do the floor, but I'm going to show you some other ways to do it too. So if I go in there and I change that those red colors to black. Then I've got this floor, okay? Um, it's not bad, but you know, sometimes you might want to just take a line and move it here so that when it looks a little bit more like it's tiled and not everything's lining up, it just makes it look a little more interesting when you do that. You know, this is just kind of illustrative points that you can make to make it look a little bit, you know, a little more interesting. And maybe I just bring that one in a little bit, but you get the idea, okay? But you get the idea. All right, so that's one way to do it, but I'm gonna take this and I'm going to copy it, put it on another layer, okay? Again, if you're having trouble, play this over again, and you know, just that's the whole purpose of the tutorials. If you know, I'm trying to do this within a short amount of time to make the video, because the video is too large. I can't upload it anyway. So. So anyway, what you can do differently, and this is another way to create some okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of all the oops. All right, so now I've got this, and I'm going to make it a little bit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on that gray that I created. All right. Now, again, I put this on another layer. Okay. All right. So this here is on one layer, and then I created another layer, and I copied everything and took away all those lines to show you it's tiled. This is another way to make it a little more interesting. What you can do is create kind of like stones that are the floor. And you can do this not by creating every stone, but by creating some that are different sizes. But you don't have to do the whole thing because it may take away from the drawing. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I go to up here, and I'm just creating another stone, and I'm going to make it a little darker. So I'm going to click on the interior, and I'm going to click on fill, and I'm going to maybe make it like that. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to get rid of. See, I'm going to make it a different shape, and I'm even going to make it rounded. Okay, and I'm going to click on the interior, just the interior, group it, and then I can move it here. Okay, and then I get rid of that line, and then I could actually maybe, if I make that a symbol, what I just did, okay, so I'm creating this flat stone and I'm making it a symbol, and I go to convert to symbol, and I'm just going to call it class flat stone. Allowing me to make it a symbol allows me to do different things like change the color, so in other words, and do the brightness, tint, alpha. If I do the alpha, it's going to be like that. So maybe you don't want that to be as dark. You can just, you know, if I go, I'll turn it all the way off. But you see, I can do that. So I got the alpha, or I can turn the alpha all the way up to 100% and go to brightness and do it that way. And, you know, I can make it lighter. and I can make it darker, and I can make it the same color as the floor, but I don't want to do that. So I can do this. So just make it 50% brightness. And then I'm going to take that and copy it, and I'm going to bring it over here, but now I'm going to make it smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to bring the brightness down a little bit. Okay, so now you don't have to do every other stone. In other words, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do copy, paste, and then do that, and then paste, and do that. You know, you just give the kind of, and when you're, this is an illustrative thing, you just give the inkling that it's a flat stone floor, right? Just by showing a couple of these. Let me click on the floor, and I'm going to group it. Control G. Okay. Let me undo that. Let me undo that. Okay. Let's move. I'm going to select these and move them out of the way for now. And I'm going to take that floor and let's get rid of that. And I'm going to take the floor and do a Control G. And now I'm going to bring these stones back. But I'm going to, right now, if it doesn't show up, just do Control up arrow. There you go. And I'm going to bring that over here and do Control up arrow, and there you go. And so this is what you do. Then you can copy that on the other side. Copy, select both, copy, paste in place. Go to Modify, Transform, Flip, Horizontal, like that. So you can give the essence or the sense of a flat stone floor, and then so you don't. You can make it a little more interesting by moving things around. You know, maybe you want to have another stone, and then you just do a couple in the background. You know, paste in place, and you make them even smaller, so you get that real sense of the floor is going back toward the wall there. You know. Copy that, paste in place, you know, make sure that that's smaller, right? Because when things go into the distance, they get smaller. Maybe this time, you know, I make that a darker color. And as they go back, you probably want the colors to be more muted. You know, that kind of thing. Maybe move them around a little bit. And then you can just copy and paste, but you don't have to do the whole floor. That's what I'm trying to say, is that, you know, you can then make them different sizes, like, you know, click on your transform tool and maybe make them, you know, flatten them out, make it, you know, basically it's a floor that's created. It's not completely the floor is full of flat stones, but they're not all perfectly and uniformly centered, or you know, even the color can be different. Maybe make this one darker, maybe make this one lighter, you know, that kind of thing. So you can make a floor like that. Let's do this. Let's copy what's up there. Make sure you don't only, if just drag your cursor over it like that, and then then do shift click on the floor. So you're only selecting that, and then copy those and paste in place, and then move them over here, and then flip the horizontal. Okay, and maybe flip them vertical. So it looks a little different. And then actually you want to take that and let's do that again. Flip horizontal. Okay, and I'm going to move these down. So you basically don't want, you want to avoid what they call tweening or twinning. You want to make it so that things don't look like they're complete opposite. So you make one side of the floor a little different than the other side. Okay, you'll see what I'm doing. I'm kind of flattening them out as they go into the distance. You know, you can make a floor like that. Let's make this a little larger, that one a little larger, maybe like that one like that. Maybe move that one over here, maybe move that one over here. You don't have to do every spot on the floor. You just give it a sense. It's almost like when you do a brick wall, you kind of, I'll show you what I mean by that when I do the wall. I'm going to end the video like this. So in other words, here's your flat floor. You don't have to do a stone so they all connect, in other words. You can just give it a semblance of a floor with flat stones, like that. Anyway, okay, so that's the end of this video. So I've created two ways of doing a floor, and I created some columns. So you can create your interior castle or your palace that way. And you can adjust the colors to however you want. You can do the same thing with the floor. If I select everything and then I turn that into a symbol, which I'll call class floor, okay, and doesn't matter. When you're naming things, it's good to give it some kind of name that's significant to what you're doing, and also consistent with what you name other things in the scene. So this way I've done this, and if I go to advanced and I take off the blue, the green, now I get this, and maybe I cut down on the blue 50%, or the red 50%. It's too dark. So what I can do here is I go over to the amount of red that I'm showing. Maybe I bring that up to 50, right? And then I bring up the blue to maybe 50. You know, that kind of thing. You can adjust it. Then go to brightness, and you'll see it goes back to gray. But then go back into advanced and maybe go back to 100 on that. You see what I mean? You play around with this thing, get the style you want. Maybe that's your floor color. Okay. And then you bring in your columns. Okay, and then you maybe bring your columns in here and you select them, and maybe you make them a little bit lighter, I don't know. And then go into advanced and make the red 100 and the blue 100, and you know, maybe you turn down the green completely, right? Or turn down this number here to 0. Maybe you bring that green back up to 50. Play around with it, and you'll see what I mean. You can adjust it in a lot of different ways. Okay, so, excuse me. That's what happens when you make a video. Okay. And okay, so if I go back and I'm going to turn off everything else that I've did previously on my video. Let's see. So there is what we have, what we created, okay? And then if you want, you can go into each of these columns, and maybe that line is too thick, and go in here, and maybe you go here and you select everything and turn that column, that line down to, oh, I don't know, let's see, maybe that line is too thick, I'm going to go with 1. Or maybe I change the color of the line. Okay, maybe I decide to double click on the line, and I decide maybe I'm going to go with kind of a gray or darker gray. Okay, so it doesn't stand out as much. You can change things. You can change line thickness. You can change line color. So that kind of thing. So maybe I go here and I click on that, and I decide that line, I don't want that line to be black, and I'm going to change the thickness to 1, and click the line color and go with maybe that. And see, that looks a little different. Sometimes you want the background to be a little muted, so your character and the obstacles and the what do you call it? The obstacles and the collectibles stand out more. So it's okay to like change thickness and color of the line. So I'm just going to go here and select that, make it thickness of 1, and make it a color of like that. So let's see what that looks like. And so, you know, that takes you can still see the thickness of the line, you can still see it, but it's thinner, it doesn't stand out as much, okay? So, you know, there's your columns. Now, again, you can play with these. You can build columns however you want to build them. You can put the floor, you can make the tiles if you want, or you can make a floor that looks like this. It's all up to you, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the walls, how to do a wall, and then I'll show you how to do those little things of fire. And the fire, I'll show you guys how to import that into your video, so that you know you've got these torches on the walls, right? So anyway, so let me end this video, and then I'm going to put up another video after this to continue how to create a castle or a palace, and then I'll also show you how to do the windows in that one. And that's it. And then I'll make another video for kind of a spooky outdoor video of a background. And I'll do that one on another video. So this is the video 1, how to do a castle palace, and then there'll be a second one, how to do the walls and the windows. Okay, that's it.